Industries like the cannabis industry, the crypto industry, the adult industry, they all have one thing in common. Banks do not like them. What these banks want to do is they want to force people to fit inside of their pretty little box so they can work within their establishment. Some industries are forced outside of the norm because the banks just won't serve them. And this is where we see the entrance of shadow banking. This is where people have to jump over hurdles just to get banked. And when they do that, these shadow banks, well, they're not always playing by the rules. What if I told you the oldest bank in crypto is a shadow bank and it's about to go down? Today, we're talking about Silvergate. Let's get it. Welcome to BitSquad Crypto. My name is Ben. Make sure to smash that like button. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We need some subscribers, y'all. Okay, so let's start by talking about the beginning, where you should start naturally, of course. When crypto got started, not many banks wanted to get involved with crypto, just like we were talking about these other industries. Silvergate was the first bank to take that chance. They've been in the world of crypto banking for over 10 years now, and many are just getting started because they had a first mover advantage with their tech. They've got over 1,300 clients, and who those clients are, you're gonna love it. Unfortunately for them, these clients included FTX and Alameda Research, among others, who together had over 20 accounts with Silvergate. Wonder if they've got some accounts that weren't even in on the bankruptcy. That'd be interesting to see. The rabbit hole, SBF, Elizabeth Warren, I can't even remember that guy's name, but I like it. The rabbit hole, yes, this is the bank that did FTX's dirty laundry. Situation goes much deeper than anyone thinks, and the connection with FTX is only a small part of the story. That's how wild this is. Just a few weeks ago, Silvergate had the full attention of senators such as John Kennedy, that's his name, and Elizabeth Warren. And since then, things have not been great for Silvergate. They've been in the news. There's been talks about insolvency, the connections between Digital Currency Group and Barry Silbert and Genesis Trading. They don't look good right now. So here is the question that we need to be thinking about. I think I already know the answer. In the next 10 years, will Silvergate help crypto as much as it did in the last 10 years? Or will this situation spiral into the most cataclysmic black swan in the history of crypto? If Silvergate were to go down, the effects that would have on the entire space, well, it may not be permanent, but we'd be feeling them for a long time. So let's talk about the big break Silvergate Bank got. Started in San Diego in 1988, formerly known as La Jolla Bank. They made their way by taking a chance. Interesting. They took a chance on crypto. Wasn't the first chance they took. This company has a history of rolling the dice. They took a chance on up-and-coming tech businesses from the late 80s to early 2000s. Guys, in the late 80s, a tech business was Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Their first big break was their partnership with Qualcomm, who was a front runner in wireless technology. Early on in the days of wireless, you had a much different landscape than you have now. And picking and betting on a winner was much harder to do. I remember when I got my first cell phone, it was an Ericsson cell phone with PowerTel service, and PowerTel ended up folding, and then PowerTel became VoiceStream, and VoiceStream became what we have as T-Mobile. The point is, a lot of those early companies, they folded multiple times, but they bet on a winner. This partnership was essential for both parties. Picking a winner of that size, that early in the game of wireless, set Silvergate Bank on a path that would lead to much bigger and better things. So they quickly began rising to power. The Qualcomm partnership put Silvergate on the map as the top dog to bank big tech. Not long after this deal, they quickly cut deals with other high-profile companies such as Intuit, CyberSource, and eBay. Think about that. Taking big risks in the tech industry is Silvergate's bread and butter, and at this point, they're a key player in the tech banking game. Let's think about what's going on right now with Silvergate and the contagion. Everyone was over-leveraging and promising things that they didn't have. That's what has led us to this gigantic collapse. Exactly what the traditional market, the traditional banks do. And nobody knows how to lend them out like Silvergate. Banking on Bitcoin, not just a great documentary on Netflix, one of the first ones I watched back in 2016. Just like how they took chances on tech at the turn of the century, it's exactly what they did with crypto back in 2013. I was in crypto before Silvergate Bank. That's one of my biggest flexes. At this point in time, Bitcoin had a bad reputation from its connection to the Silk Road, obviously a drug website on the dark web where people would exchange Bitcoin for mostly weeds and shrooms, I think. I don't know. Imagine the guy that paid 30 Bitcoin for some shrooms. He's still tripping to this day. Silvergate saw past the noise and took a chance on crypto. They were the first bank to build a key infrastructure in crypto banking that opened the doors to a digital revolution. So Silvergate, not only are they becoming a big player, they're kind of leading the space in a sense when it comes to pushing things forward. They're not afraid to get their hands dirty. First mover advantage. People say that about Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's got the first mover advantage. It was before Ethereum, before Litecoin, before any other coins. Of course, Litecoin was a fork of the code of Bitcoin. Silvergate was no different. 2013, they built a proprietary payment platform called the Silvergate Exchange Network, AKA SEN, S-E-N. The first of its kind, the SEN created a real-time network for exchanges and institutions to trade fiat for Bitcoin. Very revolutionary during this time. This expedited the adoption of Bitcoin at the time because Silvergate was the only regulated bank to build this kind of tech. There was no other player in the game. There was no other gold to silver, if you will, here. So they've established themselves as a company that is pushing the space forward. We know they're taking bets, they're taking risks. Now they're creating tech that nobody else has. You kind of start to see how Silvergate became the go-to bank. So let's talk about who the key players are here. When I tell you the names of all the players in crypto that rely on the SEN every single day, your jaw might hit the floor. You'd have to have a really long face. Silvergate has over 1,300 clients, and some of them include Circle, Kraken, Grayscale, Genesis Global Trading, BitGo, Bitfinex, Paxos, Bittrex, Bitstamp, MicroStrategy, LedgerX, Gemini, Crypto.com, and Coinbase. Don't forget BlockFi, Alameda, and FTX. You can see this conglomerate of companies using Silvergate Bank. What we're going to start seeing is the overlap between all of these companies. It's hard to tell where one of these companies' money ends and the next one starts. So let's talk about the problems with the way that this is set up. So not worry anyone that a large majority of market manipulators are all under the same roof. And I can tell you that from things that I've been hearing, it's not a fake thing. There was a group of large players in crypto that literally were communicating back and forth on how to manipulate the market. Companies that you wouldn't think would be working together to market manipulate. How can we prove every transaction on the SEN is legitimate? Now, what separates SEN from Bitcoin or blockchain is that it's not on blockchain, which means it's not transparent, it's not immutable, it's not a locked ledger. What it is it's ones and zeros. So when these institutions were trading fiat for Bitcoin on the SEN or the Silvergate Exchange Network, how do we know exactly that what was happening was really what was going on in the back end with the money and the crypto? The lack of crypto regulation puts a big target on Silvergate Bank. We know that there were just many politicians that were sending letters out to many of these crypto banks trying to urge them to get out of the space. If I was a politician and wanted to go after crypto, I would go after Silvergate. They have all the major players underneath them. If Silvergate was to ever go completely insolvent, it would be the black swan of all black swans, also known as the blackest swan. It would be a big problem if they ever got into trouble. It'd be a problem for them. It'd be a problem for Coinbase. It'd be a problem for Digital Currency Group. It would be a problem for all of us. The effects and the dominoes that would occur would not be good. Just a few months ago, Silvergate's website featured a quote from Sam Bankman-Fried that stated, "Life as a crypto firm can be divided up into before Silvergate and after Silvergate." Obviously, this quote is not there anymore because everything about SBF has been purged from every major crypto company. Silvergate, though, well, they were FTX's #1 banking partner, and this got them into serious trouble. You have to also think as we walk through this, all it takes is one very bad player to ruin 10 years of a track record. FTX Alameda has over 20 accounts with Silvergate. Technically speaking, Silvergate was the vehicle that FTX used to misappropriate user funds. The traditional banks do it all the time. When a user bought crypto on FTX, it was processed through Silvergate and put into Alameda's bank account, going into FTX through Silvergate, ending at Alameda. They weren't even letting the money touch your FTX account. You understand that, right? This is why FTX can't pay back funds, because they never had them in the first place. It was all going to Alameda. On December 5th, 2022, Senator Elizabeth Warren, traditional hater of crypto, Senator John Kennedy and Congressman Roger Marshall all sent a detailed letter to Silvergate Bank looking for answers about Silvergate's involvement with FTX. They also want to know about the $10 billion SBF secretly transferred. Senator Warren stated, Silvergate appears to be at the center of the improper transfers of billions in FTX customer funds. Americans need answers. Those guilty of wrongdoing must be held accountable. If there's one thing we know about Sam Bankman-Fried, there's nobody that hates giving an answer more than that guy. There's other things going on in the background as well. Silvergate's CEO, Alan Lane, quickly released a statement about their involvement with FTX, anticipating probably other lawsuits. FTX represented about 10% of Silvergate's total deposits. The relationship with FTX was limited to deposits, no Bitcoin collateralized loans, because all the customer Bitcoin was in Sam's Bitcoin addresses. He assured that their reserves are backed to one-to-one and that their system was designed to handle stress and volatility. But how much volatility are we talking here? In the response, Alan Lane stated, Silvergate's platform was built to support our clients during times of market volatility and transformation, and the SEN has continued to operate as designed and without interruption as a federally regulated banking institution that's well capitalized. We maintain a strong balance sheet with ample liquidity to support our customers' needs. It's funny when Alan Lane says he's got a strong balance sheet, nobody questions it. But when CZ said, we are financially strong, everybody said that meant they didn't have any money. Weird. Is there ample liquidity to service the market? Within a few weeks, the bottom fell out for Silvergate. On January 5th, Silvergate stock fell 45% in a matter of hours. Because FTX went bankrupt, Silvergate was forced to liquidate an insane amount of their assets at a steep loss to cover $1.8 billion worth of customer withdrawals. Scariest part is the $718 million they suffered in losses that came when they were forced to sell the bottom. Well, it's far more than the profits that Silvergate Bank has made since 2013. They had to pay more money out than they made in basically 10 years. Repercussions. We love repercussions, right? It's like when you have a percussion and then you do it a second time. Does that make sense? While scrambling for money, Silvergate was forced to fire 40% of their workforce, which totaled to about 200 employees in total. They were also forced to write off the $196 million they spend on Diem, which was a stablecoin digital payments network that they purchased from Meta. Interesting. They bought $200 million worth of Meta's stablecoin that they're never gonna launch. At this point, Silvergate stock has dropped over 90% since their all-time high in November of 2021. What also was at the all-time high in November of 2021? That's right, Atlanta Braves World Championship hopes. That's right, that's when we won the World Series. And here's what people are wondering. The market is down. The crypto contagion has taken over. Can it actually get worse from here? Or from this point forward, is everything kind of baked in? People already know that there's problems with Silvergate, problems with Genesis. Is this going to result in another large market downturn or worse? As of now, Silvergate is not down and out, but without a doubt, they are against the ropes. That's a boxing reference. They're above water for now. Silvergate going completely insolvent, it would be cataclysmic. I don't know how long it would take crypto to recover from that. It would eventually, but it would take a long time. The implications for the 1,300 clients they serve would be crazy. All those exchanges would be losing their on and off ramps. No one could put money on or take money out. Silvergate crashing will cause irreparable damage to crypto and its reputation, because you know, crypto's already got a great reputation. We don't want to see it go south. Thanks, Sam. Let's hope the 60% of their employees left find a way to right the ship. I think if I remember correctly, they just laid off 40% of their employees, but I think they also laid off 20% of their employees a couple months ago as well. And now we've looked at the whole picture with Silvergate Bank. And this is what you should walk away with. Silvergate Bank doesn't have to be a bad actor in order to hurt crypto. The reason is they've gotten too big, too fast. They didn't have any competitors in this space for many years. Now, what we're seeing is banks wanting to come in slowly but surely, but Silvergate's got all the clients. So whether it's now or whether it's later, we could be due to see this again with another company that they service, like what we saw with FTX and Alameda. So what we need to see Silvergate Bank get broken up. And we need to see those institutional clients in crypto spread out to other banks. That way, we are seeing a deleveraging of the disaster that would occur if Silvergate Bank went down. And if it did go down, you know what they would call it? Silvergate Gate. That's all I got. Be blessed. BitBoy out.